Hey, from the studios of TLC Talk Radio, welcome to A Vibrant Mix with Tasha, Tamiko, and Fred. I'm your girl Tasha with my fantabulous co-host. And guess what? We are all here together. Yay!
The three amigos.
The three amigos. What's up, Tamiko?
What's up, Tasha?
Hey, Fred.
How are you?
Good evening.
Really?
Hey, Fred.
How you doing?
We want to make sure we don't leave him out.
We're going to take plenty of pictures tonight.
We're going to take plenty of pictures tonight.
Back together.
Yeah, we are back together again. Don't forget to like us on all social media at A Vibrant Mix. We have a great show lined up for you today. Our in-studio guest, I know you're wondering, like, who is that guy in the green? Who is that guy?
It is better than Fred. What's the
okay.
You'll get fan mail. Watch it. You'll get fan mail.
Right. Oh, my God. Please don't get fan mail. We know how that went with the last fan mail lady. Yeah, I took a shot at her. Our in-studio guest is filmmaker James Coney, and he's going to talk to us about his company, Joyful Rebellion Films, and about how he came up with that name, because that's really interesting to me. And his upcoming film, tentatively titled There Are No Words. So much to talk about, though, in the news. Like, where you want to start, Tamiko? Because I'm going to let you run with this.
I don't know where to begin this week
Like
here.
Any, mini, money, mo.
If your life is just bland right now, this week here was just popping.
Absolutely.
Started off with Kales. Then it went to, who was it?
Usher.
Usher.
How you forget about Kales?
Went
Here,
to Usher.
Chicagoan.
Then OJ.
Lord Jesus.
Now today they trying to put Kanye in the mix.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. See what happened when you be on the
Don't
train?
forget about Kevin Hart.
Oh, and Kevin Hart. I knew it was one I was missing. It's like an attack on the black men this week.
Yeah, this week. It's always an attack.
Yeah, but this week it was magnified times 10. I'm like, whoa.
So, Kels, let's
Kels.
start with him. And we're going to talk about that particular episode a little bit more next week. But he has been accused of running a cultish operation.
Sex cult.
Yeah, sex cult. Yeah, that's, wow.
Sex cult.
Do you need a sex cult? Do you need that?
Yes.
Some may. Some may. Some may.
Really?
I mean, think about it. I mean, even if you're married in a relationship, that's a cult.
How is
It's the
being
two
married
of you,
and in a relationship
the
a
two
cult?
of you together are down for each other. You're with the cult of your relationship. He's not trying to be in a relationship. He just needs many women to get down with. I'm not mad at him.
That's a Love McPherson.
Yeah, we need to
I mean,
get
as
you
long
on
as
her
they over-
couch.
As long as they're not 11, you know what I'm saying?
And
True.
and that is the difference between
True.
these accusations and ones from the past, that he was dealing with allegedly underage young ladies. This time, these women are of consenting age. Maybe physically they are of consenting age, but you wonder what their mental state is like. We'll talk a little bit more about grooming and how you groom people, because grooming is not just what you do to kids when you're getting ready to set them up for molestation. You can do grooming in a variety of situations and on grown people. So I'm just curious.
True.
I'm curious as to what was said.
But then I'm curious, too, about the terminology that's used and how it's used differently with Kales versus a Hugh Hefner.
Okay.
Hugh Hefner is the bunny ranch. They're bunnies.
Yeah.
R. Kelly is a sex cult, an abusive sex cult.
Right. I think he's taking the flack because of the past allegations. I don't recall, and I haven't read anything where Hef was accused of having married an underage singer, for example, lying about her age and thus and so. I don't know. I haven't seen it. James is like, you're going to say something.
Well, I think some other differences too is that we all know where the Playboy Mansion is. It's not something where people are not allowed to come in there and having to sign all these interesting contracts. And I think I don't know.
Is it in OJ land? Is it Nevada?
That was before OJ.
Oh.
Well,
I had a moment.
I think when you start doing secret locations and not revealing information, and when to me, one of the most telling things was that after that young lady's parents came forward and had that press conference, right after that, she did this little interview. And one of the biggest things that took away from that, she didn't want to, or she was instructed by somebody behind the camera not to tell where she was located at. Now, if she had nothing to hide, if everything was fine, if she was doing well, Why is she not revealing where she is?
Yeah.
To me, that's the whole thing. It's like, what is really going on behind the scenes there?
Yeah, something's off.
Something's not right.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's like a recovering alcoholic now owning Budweiser. It's like
Right.
Huh?
That's a hell of an analogy.
And I think the age of consent in Georgia is 16, and then the age is 17 in Illinois. So to me, that's kind of scary in my opinion, because that means that he could have 16-year-old girls in Georgia, and I guess there's no issue with that. But I don't know. It's disturbing to me. I think the signs have always been there, but we let it slide because I'm just honest. We love his music.
Yeah.
So Step in the Name of Love. Everybody, when that song comes on, everybody gets on the floor. We don't care about his past allegations. That just kind of goes out the window. Just like the episode of Boondocks. You ever seen the episode of Boondocks?
That is my favorite.
To me, that was spot on.
It was.
Because they were in that courtroom. That music came on. Everybody just started jamming. Forgot about why they were even there.
And the reporter asked the lady with the chicken ring, why do you think R. Kelly is, I'm paraphrasing, I'm trying to go from memory, but why do you think he's innocent? And her response was literally, 'cause he could sing good. Oh, okay. That's why he not a pedophile?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And, that tape that came out, I watched it. I will never, ever, ever want to know something that bad again. I literally was sick to my stomach and had to vomit. Because that was somebody's baby, whoever the man was. But I was like,
no comment.
I'm listening.
But
somebody's baby knew what she was doing.
Even with this week's instance, the parents.
Yeah.
It was something suspect to me about them.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Then the parents of the young lady from the famous videotape.
Mm-hmm.
The big part of the reason why he wasn't convicted was the parents wouldn't testify. The girl said it wasn't her. They were getting paid.
Yeah, definitely. There was
they were getting paid. So at what point, we know R. Kelly there's something wrong. Yeah. There's something wrong. I mean, there's like a mental delay, and I think he's like stuck at 13 or 12. He dressed like he's 16 years old. He's stuck in a phase, and he himself was abused at some point in time too when he was a child. He needs some help, and that never has been addressed.
Right.
But we know there's a problem with him. Me, I would not, like I told y'all the other day, I wouldn't send my dog with R. Kelly to be
I agree
watched.
with you.
And I don't even own a dog.
Right.
But at what point do we hold the parents accountable?
I agree with you. I think in every stage you hold them accountable.
You have parents that will push their kids out there, pimp them, for lack of a better way of putting it, for money. Yeah. And then when things don't go your way, it's an issue.
Yeah.
It's no way if I was interested in a music career, my parents would push me off on R. Kelly.
Or on anybody.
Ways to get there.
On anybody.
What's wrong with going the traditional work hard, grind hard, put in the work in the studio and put your music out there to various people? I think it's all...
They see dollar signs sometimes, and you're right. Whether it was R. Kelly or whether it was whoever, I wouldn't leave my baby alone with anybody.
No.
Because I don't know you. I mean, I know who you are on stage.
Right.
But I don't know you.
That's it. And, and that was my issue when in the past, the young lady from the video, if it was any of us regular parents and we knowingly let our child stay with someone and we knew they were being abused, they would have came after us as parents for child endangerment, maybe neglect.
Yeah.
I think the court should have leaned on those parents.
I agree. Because how do you
at
leave your
her
child
age,
unsupervised?
There's no way you don't know what your child is doing, and your child is, they were benefiting. It's no other way to put it. They were benefiting, and it was her aunt, who was the recording artist at that time, Sparkle, who put it out there.
So was the story that Sparkle knew, or that she didn't recognize what was happening until it was too late? I don't know.
I think it was a case she didn't recognize until it was too late, and as soon as she found out about it, she let it be known. There's different stories out there, but you know, I don't think she knew it was going on all along.
Right. And yeah, that's and so how guilty then must you feel that you've connected your loved one with this person who's going to take advantage?
There's some guilt there.
Yeah.
Anybody with a reasonable
and just like
conscience.
with anything, you have bad people, you have bad parents. Unfortunately.
I've met them.
Out there.
But this is the question, and maybe this is something we'll go into because I know we got to move on next week when we go a little bit deeper into this. Is it fair for people to criticize those of us who are fans of R. Kelly music? We still listen to his music. We still buy tickets to see him perform at his shows. He's an excellent performer. Is it fair to be so critical of us individuals, you know, because of his past?
I think the reason people are so tough on his fans is because there are children involved. I don't know if it's fair. You know what I mean? Like, I get where I see all sides. I'm listening to the song. I may or may not, you know, rush to turn the song off. It just depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm not even paying attention.
Right.
I am a little salty at Tyrese and Change every time he comes on Pandora. But that's just me. Because team black women. Anyway.
But then, you know, then to take it a little bit further, why is it that we are so critical of our own? Because you have Elvis, who was also a pedophile. Priscilla was, 14 when he started dating her?
That's horrible.
And then he married her. No one turned against him. He still had a large fan base. They still worship him.
He's still walking around. I saw him down the street.
You know, right. They still worship him in death. Woody Allen. Woody Allen should have been locked up under a jail somewhere.
Now, was he seeing that? Was he messing with that girl before she was grown?
Yes.
Oh, that's your child.
But they brushed that under the rug because, you know, that's the norm in the Hollywood, period. So it's like we are quick to turn our backs on our own and shut them out. And I don't know what's going to happen with Kells. I just feel like he's like another OJ, like, go sit down somewhere.
Please go sit down somewhere on the therapist couch.
Right.
You could have found you a little young tenderoni.
Right. But even with that, whenever you get, if there's trouble, if there's a situation, you go back to what you know. You make some music. Everybody forgets about it, and you good. It's no different than like Kobe Bryant. He had the rape charge. Let me go win some championships. Let me go get everybody off
and
my back.
all is forgiven.
And
give my wife the biggest
ring
diamond ever in the history of the world.
And a few more babies.
He went down in the sea and got the Hope Diamond. You know what I'm saying?
I'm telling you.
I'm mad you said he went in the sea.
So, yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit more next week because there's so many layers to that. There's some mental issue, abuse issue,
history,
parent
and typically,
neglect.
Typically abusers have been abused. You're right.
Right.
Yeah. So,
honestly, one last quick note. I think that honestly, when he married Aaliyah, if Aaliyah was a young white pop singer, if he had married like Taylor Swift, he would have not had a career. His career would have been over. We would have been reading about him in the history books. Like, yeah, you remember that time back in 20 years ago where there was that singer that was out for about 2 years and
What was his name?
He married that girl and then, he went to jail.
He's still there.
That's exactly what happened.
So,
they brushed that under the rug.
It just hit me. You know who R. Kelly is? Mr. from Color Purple.
Yep. It's been going on for a long time. Not saying it's right. Don't call getting down our throats. We're not saying it's right, but we just have to put these different angles and layers to this out there.
It's good conversation and it makes you think.
It makes you think.
Yeah, but please watch your children, and if your baby wants to get
and your dog.
into the and the puppies, if your child wants to get into the industry, please send them to music camp or something. I don't know, but
and he had a house at Olympia Field. So if your child talking about going to Olympia Field,
he doesn't own it anymore. One of the Isley brothers.
Yeah, they was hanging out there real tough when he had it out there.
Trust your instincts. Trust your intuition. Don't trust that dollar because if you go by the dollar and you forget that intuition, you forget those instincts.
Yeah,
you'll get burned burned every single time.
Every time. Be wary of somebody who says, "Oh, it's all right. We just going swimming. It's February, sir." You know, you need. All right, great conversation. So, as I mentioned, our in-studio guest is our brother James, and you heard him commenting on everything. We appreciate that. Filmmaker, Joyful Rebellion Films. Yes. Tell me all about that name. Because I'm cracking up. I'm like, rebellion.
Like my life.
It might be a little joyous.
Joyful rebellion.
This is why the Lord rolls his eyes at me. This right here.
Well, I definitely want to give props where props is due, because I was inspired by one of my favorite artists. His name is Chaos.
Okay.
He's a phenomenal MC. Comes from Canada. And the name of his second album was called Joyful Rebellion. And I saw that, and I thought it was one of the best things I had ever seen. And I found an interview about him, and he was talking about why he chose that name. And he felt that album was a rebellion against the current state of hip-hop at that time when the album came out. And I felt that...
Can he keep rebelling? Because I'm not feeling it now.
Actually, to be honest with you, I'm still feeling it, but I'm looking for what I'm still feeling, because the good music, you have to really, I think you have to search for it more to really find it. I think that's the only difference. I think there's still a lot of phenomenal music that's out. It's just you just have to look for it. The mainstream has changed from now before, because before 60s, 70s, 50s. You had to be talented to be successful. You had to have the skills. If you didn't have the skills, you were not selling records. Now you have to be a good entertainer. You have to entertain. You have to be flashy. You have to be colorful.
I don't even think that's the case, no.
I mean, but you do that and you sell some records. Yeah. There's still talented artists selling, but
yeah.
So he was talking about how that album was a rebellion against the current state of hip hop, and I felt that the kind of work that I want to do is, a rebellion against the current state of film. And I thought that it was the balance between joyful and rebellion, I thought was really interesting to me, because, I don't want to do what everybody else is doing, but I have a passion for it and excitement for it, and I feel there's a joy to it. So I thought it was a perfect title to use.
That's great.
What I want to do. Yeah.
So tell us how you got into film. Like, what did you just say? You know what? Did you watch a movie and say I could do that?
Were you doing like private films? Like, I can do this professionally.
See, and Jesus rolls his eyes at Fred too.
Yeah. Jesus' eyes done popped out on that one.
James' wife is gonna call and be like, "Excuse me."
I know, right?
What kind of show y'all running? Who
is that guy?
What kind of? That's a little too vibrant for me.
Right.
No.
Be quiet, Fred.
Well,
just be quiet.
Well, I've always had a love for films. Even when I was little, I always loved films that were not necessarily for like they were for like have adult themes. Like you ever seen the movie Amadeus?
So I'm not a movie fan. You should never ask me have I seen, because the last movie I saw was Straight Outta Compton. So yeah,
very good film, by the way.
Indeed.
No worries. So that's a classic film that came out back in the 80s. It was about Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. The classic.
I remember the soundtrack. I remember the Amadeus theme song with the rock beat. I remember that, but I ain't see it.
But that film was not something that normally a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old would watch. It's more for adults, obviously. But I've always been fascinated with storytelling and just compelling visuals and things like that, even when I was younger. But when I got older, I realized that I always had a lot of ideas as far as I wrote a lot of stories. I wrote a lot of ideas of things that I wanted to kind of see on TV and see in the theaters. And it took me a while to kind of really understand that I wanted to be a filmmaker. And I just thought that, okay, I just want to make stuff. But I didn't think like, okay, my career is going to be a filmmaker. Eventually, I bounced around with a few different majors in college. I started with engineering, or electrical engineering, actually, because, I was good at math, and I like to be creative. And I was like, okay, engineering, math intensive. You could be creative. And, then I turned to mass communications. And then I'm like, what do I really want to do with my life? And then I said, I want to make films. I do. So I eventually went to Columbia College.
Yay, me too. Yay, us.
And I'll tell you the exact moment that I knew that I wanted to be a filmmaker for the rest of my life. And I'll tell the story again when I win my first Oscar.
All right, I'll be there.
I'll
be there.
And we'll be there.
We'll be right in the
now.
audience.
So when I'm on that stage, I'm like, I remember he said that back on our show. I'm telling you.
I'm going to hold up the videotape. Remember that time?
I'm telling you. So my first production, it was my second semester there, my first production class where we actually made films. We used a Bolex camera. So Bolex, black and white film. I mean, this is, as old school as it gets, okay? My first film, we had to go outside and shoot something with one of our classmates. So I'm outside. It's overcast. It's drizzling. It's kind of cold. Wind is blowing. It's nasty weather outside. Not really ideal for trying to shoot something. I'm out there. I'm freezing, and I get out there and I set the camera up with my friend, and I'm just having the time of my life. I'm just enjoying every single bit of it. It was so exciting and so exhilarating, and I was like, you know what? This is what I was meant to do. I knew at that moment that I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I knew that's what my calling was. And so, ever since then, I've been kind of working towards that. And, I finally decided I was going to, put my money where my mouth is and actually start doing my own thing as far as, my own company and making my films. Mm-hmm. So, that's kind of how Joyful Rebellion Films came about.
Yeah, because if you can hang out in the Chicago wind
elements,
you are the bomb.
Yeah.
Don't complain. You enjoying it,
right? You're actually having a good time. You're not thinking about when you get back into the warm building. So that works. So was it hard for you to get started? You said you put your money where your mouth is. What kind of said, okay, let's do this?
Well, when I started going to Columbia, one of the things I was saying when people would ask me what did I want to do and where did I see my career going, I said, I want to be a filmmaker and I want to run my own production company. And I said that for many years, even after I graduated and got my bachelor's degree. I said that for a while. But I kept doing other things. I mean, I worked in television production for a long time. Absolutely loved it. But I would keep saying that, but I never actually put it into action.
Okay.
And
were you afraid of your success?
I honestly don't know. I think I was just I thought it was something that was so far in the future and so maybe unreachable. That I was like, okay, it's down the road. I'm going to work towards that because right now I can't do that because of this or because of that. And eventually I said, you know what? If I don't start moving towards it and working towards it, it's never going to happen. So, a couple of years ago, I said, I'm finally going to really actually work towards making this a reality. So I don't tell people that I'm going to be a filmmaker. I'm going to start my own production studio. I said, I am, and I have one, So, I finally started doing that because I've had an extraordinary time working with the different TV shows that I've worked on. I've worked for some amazing bosses. I worked, for Oprah, Steve Harvey, Judge Mathis, even for a brief little stint, Ellen.
Nice.
And just
I love Ellen. Hi, Ellen.
So, those opportunities, I've, made some phenomenal connections, and I'm just like, I see other people, doing what they love and, running these companies and really being successful. And I said, I want that too.
Yeah.
And I'm more concerned about putting out great work and have my work speak for itself than necessarily like me being out there. Because for me, I'd rather my work be famous than me be famous.
Understood.
If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my goal, and that's kind of what I'm working towards right now.
Okay. What are some personal qualities that make for a good filmmaker?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think, well, one of the things I think is most important is that knowing that there is still so much to learn, and knowing that you have to be willing to absorb a lot of different things, because as soon as you start thinking you know it all, that's when it starts to fall apart.
Can you say that again for all the teenagers that are listening?
Yes. When you think you know it all, that's when it starts to fall apart. And you really have to be a studier and a lover and a learner of the industry and of your craft. And, that's what I found out. I mean, I'm still very early in my career being a filmmaker, very early.
Can I have a part in one of the films? I can act.
Sure.
I just need a good girdle, and then we can do it.
Do you pick your actors and actresses, or do you have someone that does the selection?
Right now it's me, but I'm really working towards developing a team and really cultivating something where I have other people to build with and to create something really special. That's always kind of been the goal. I may want to kind of be the head of it, but I want to have very strong collaborators. Other people that are leaders, just like me, strong people that are very have those same goals and aspirations. I don't want to work with somebody that is not interested in being the absolute best they can be and being at the absolute top of their game in whatever field they want to be in. And I've been very fortunate that I've already found those kind of people so far that I've worked with. My first film that I released back in May, everybody I worked with on that film was absolutely phenomenal. Very gifted, love what they do, and I want to continue to be around those kind of people.
Tell us about that first film.
Okay, well, it was never planned to be my first film, but I had a young lady who was a good friend of mine that I actually met. She was a guest on the Steve Harvey show early when I first started working there. And we stayed in touch, and then she reached out to me. She was like, hey, I have an idea for a film that I want to do that's about my own personal struggles. And I looked at it, and I was like, this would be something I would want to pursue, And obviously she won't mind me talking about this because this is what the film is about. She's been struggling with depression and bipolar disorder for a very large part of her life. And a lot of us, including myself at times, we have different ideas about what that is, and a lot of times we put it in a box. Mm-hmm. We want to label people like that, like it's either they're crazy, or say things like it's not really that bad. Mm-hmm. Get over it. We don't understand the severity of what they go through and what they experience, and the film is like a very visual representation of the inner and mental struggle that people go through when they're in depression and they're experiencing bipolar disorder. And I thought that was a very good film to kind of start out with because, it's not something that people are normally going to run to want to make because, it's not something everybody wants to really talk about.
It's not a fluffy subject.
Exactly. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
So how would we see the film, or is it at a editing stage right now?
No.
How do you plan to put it out there for
that film? Mm-hmm. Oh no, that film I released back on May 10th. It's actually, you could find it on my my Facebook page for my company. You could find it on my website, joyfulrebellionfilms.com.
Okay.
It's also on it's on Vimeo and on YouTube.
Okay.
It's called Manic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Who are some of your favorite filmmakers?
Ooh.
Who is your favorite?
How much time do you have
a favorite? No.
I mean, I live here.
Do you have a favorite?
We will be here forever.
If you had to name one favorite, who's that favorite?
Nah.
I know that's hard.
Oh, that's extremely hard.
Okay, I'll give you a couple.
Because I have the usual ones that are my favorite. Like Stanley Kubrick is absolutely phenomenal, and of course Hitchcock is one of my all-time favorites. But then I've you ever heard of Kurosawa? He's a Japanese director.
Oh, that sounds like something you catch on your feet.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
I'm telling you,
we have not.
Kurosawa, he was one of the most brilliant filmmakers you ever see in your life. And what made him special was that he wasn't just great for a period. Some filmmakers, they'll have like a period where they make like 2 or 3 films that are really phenomenal. The rest of their career is kind of, okay. He was making brilliant masterpieces for decades. I mean, like
Japanese?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of his films have been remade into American versions of the films. Like, you remember that movie that came out, the Magnificent Seven, with Denzel, and that was a remake of an American film, but that film was a remake of his film Seven Samurai. And a lot of his films have been made into American versions, and his films are actually just brilliant. They're breathtaking. They're visually just stunning. The stories are phenomenal. And I think that's one thing that I want to bring to the table as far as being a filmmaker. I want it to be visually visually unique, visually beautiful, but also the content, phenomenal stories, great storytelling, great characters. If you get a chance to see my promo that I created for my company, I released a short promo video back when I launched, and it talks about my perspective on what kind of films I want to make. And one thing I think is very important is diversity. And to me, diversity shouldn't be special; it should be normal.
Right.
It should be the
Good
norm.
point.
It should be something that we're not even having to strive for, because it should already be there. It shouldn't be unique to be inclusive and to have representation.
You don't want to be in them boxes.
So it should be like a vibrant mix of different personalities, like the three of us can be in your film.
I agree with this.
Very well put.
I agree with
Couldn't
this.
agree more.
Do you have a favorite actor?
Favorite actor, living or dead?
Okay. One living, one dead.
I was going to say both.
All right. One living, one dead. I think that's fair.
One living, one dead. Okay. It's also hard to pick just one, but I will do my best. One that's no longer here, I would probably say, Cary Grant. And the reason I'll say him, because I could name you probably 30 or 40 different people.
Right.
But one of the things I love, just briefly, one of the things I love about Cary was that he could do any genre. He could do screwball comedy, he could do romance, he could do suspense, and he did all of them as if those were like his wheelhouse. A lot of people, you see a lot of actors and actresses, they have certain genres that they only do comedies, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But you would see him in a suspense movie, and you would think that, oh, he's a suspense actor. You see him in comedy, oh, he's a great comedic actor. But he did all of those things. And I'll say one living, Chitwell, Ejiofor. I think that's how you say his last name. Forgive me. I should know it better. Do you know him? He was the star of 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a brilliant actor. Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie Serenity? He was the villain in that movie. It was a movie based off the show called Firefly. It was a sci-fi action kind of TV show, and he was in that movie, and he was brilliant. But yeah, I could name you a lot of different actors.
What about actresses?
Actresses? Off the top of my head, Viola Davis is phenomenal. And she's been phenomenal for a very long time. Some people act like she just came out
yesterday,
like last year, 2 years ago. She's been a brilliant actress for a very long time. And, that Oscar was very well deserved.
Her win was very emotional. You could see that she had been laboring. Maybe not specifically for that, but you could see that she felt phenomenal, that her labor had not been in vain.
And just a quick thing as far as my opinion about that, I think she should have been nominated for and should have won Best Actress, because she had a leading role in Fences. That wasn't a supporting role.
Right.
They chose to put her in the supporting category because they felt that she would have the best chance to win in that category. But that was a leading role. Yeah. But, of course, last year was the year of La La Land. And they want to be able to get, and don't get me wrong, I can't remember her name at the moment, but I still love her, though. The actress that won for that role in that movie, they wanted to make sure that movie got some sort of recognition since it didn't win Best Picture. In my opinion, that's what happened. Even though that Best Picture fiasco was probably one of the most crazy things I'd ever seen in my life. I hate
can you produce that next year?
Yeah.
Can you do it?
I hate that Moonlight was robbed of its moment, though.
Yeah.
It didn't have its moment, because I think that would have been something very special to have him read the right name and to see that reaction and to hear that speech that they would have originally gotten had they had heard that. Because then after the whole fiasco, it
diminishes.
It diminished it, and yes, it was unforgettable. Yes, we'll be talking about for about the next 20, 30, 40 years. But I
forgot about it. You done made me mad all over.
Remember that time dude messed up the name? Like,
and by the way, I do love Warren Beatty. I think he was a phenomenal director and actor as well. Mm-hmm. A lot of people kind of forget that he was a great director too. But yeah, he really the guy was like texting on his phone. The guy that had the envelopes, and he got distracted and then gave Beatty the wrong envelope. And I'm just like, and of course, obviously, he
does he work anywhere anymore? No. Maybe probably not.
They kind of excommunicated him, obviously.
Oh my God! So he's banned from the industry?
I don't know if he's banned from the industry, but he's not doing that job anymore.
Yeah, probably not.
And he's not doing any other jobs that are near like that for a very long time. So,
he should just get a name change and facelift, maybe. Throw his phone in the garbage when it comes close to award time. So you have a film that's in production now. Tell us about that. Well, not everything, because then
Yeah. Yes, understood. It's that we're actually in pre-production right now. It's something that my goal is to shoot in early to mid-October.
Is there any spot for maybe 3 radio hosts? Shameless plug.
Well, I will say this. Even if it won't work for this particular film, that's something I'm still definitely open to in the future, because I definitely want to do a lot of different kinds of works in a lot of different kinds of genres. And a lot of short films I'll be doing right now. Obviously, eventually I'll be doing more feature films once the funding and
absolutely
build my empire and things. I know that's coming down the road, but I want to do a lot of different kinds of things, and that's definitely something I would love to do. So.
I'll audition.
I'm
ashamed to audition.
Yeah, we could do it.
But
she acts like that she likes Fred every week. I think she's good.
some Oscar-worthy performances.
Man,
huh?
I'll audition.
I'm definitely down for that. And this film is actually something that's it's also very heavy hitting, just like the first film that I worked on. But this is something that kind of came from me as far as the idea, not the content. And I'll explain. Just to give you a brief background. I know we all remember that Stanford swimmer, Brock Turner, and what happened last year, when he was convicted of raping that woman, and that disgusting sentence that he got, 6 months, because they were trying to protect him instead of thinking about the person who we should be worried about is the victim. And it made it even worse, he got out in 3 months, which I thought was just absolutely horrific. Now, the victim, she read a statement at the sentencing hearing, and it wasn't just any kind of statement. It was very, it was over 10 pages long, and I saw an article about it online. I was like, oh, let me see what she said. I was just curious about it. Maybe I'll just read like a little, a paragraph or two and kind of see what she was saying. And I ended up reading the entire thing without stopping, and it was one of the most engrossing, powerful, heartbreaking, but also uplifting things I had ever read. And it was for a number of reasons. It was very, very detailed. It was very visual too. I mean, she told a story. I mean, she broke it down, because it's 10 pages long, so you can imagine she put a lot of detail in there. And she talks about everything she went through, as far as the hospital after it happened, and being at home talking to her parents and her boyfriend, and the whole court proceedings, and how she was treated by the lawyers, and by how the case went on. And one of my first thoughts after I read it was, I think as many people as possible need to hear her words, because I felt that it was a very important indictment of rape culture, not just in the country as a whole, but on college campuses. And too often, the people who are victims, most of them are women. Most of them don't report incidents, unfortunately, because of the lack of justice that they receive when they do report things. A lot of times the schools are not very supportive. Law enforcement is not supportive, and the justice system is not very supportive. So that scarily creates more incidents. And that scarily creates more women not saying anything.
And it's a vicious cycle then.
It's a horrible cycle. Yes, exactly.
I'm sitting here thinking in my head like, she wrote a 10-page statement.
And he got 6 flipping months.
Right. He could have at least got a year for each page she had to write. Because just think about her reliving those emotions each page.
Exactly.
She had to write.
And she even directly addressed specific things that he was saying in his statement when he was speaking of his sentencing. And I think one of the things that was really important was that Brock, his lawyer, and even his family and friends, their whole philosophy was the problem was that he was drinking too much. Not the fact that he is a rapist. It wasn't that he raped a young woman. It was that he was drinking too much and he made a bad decision because he was drinking too much. And I think
haven't we all?
Yeah.
Right, but never that egregious.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. That's what, to me, that's the very definition of rape culture, is that, you know, they look at it as everything outside of it is what is the problem instead of addressing the actual problem itself. And what I want to do with this film is I really want to bring a light to her statement, bring a light to what she said, and in a very unique way. I won't get into like exactly how I'm going to approach that, but what I will say is that it's going to have a lot of different women in it, women performers and actresses that are from all walks of life, you know, all races, you know, religions, even different languages, including sign language.
Very nice.
Different cultures, and they're all going to show that this is not just that young lady's issue. What happened to her is horrific, and it shouldn't happen even once. But this is something that is about all women in all different cultures and walks of life, and we need to remember that. And I think that what I'm doing
reminds me of vagina monologues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
Absolutely. That's where my mind was going, honestly.
It does, but it's specific to one issue.
Yeah.
Versus with vagina monologues, it touched on all issues that women deal with. But
yeah, and that's the main purpose of it. And this is something that I want to be seen, like I said, of course, by as many people as possible, but not just because it's my film and I want people to see it. It's because I think it's important for people to see it, because it's not my voice, it's her voice, and she's speaking for all the other women who have been victimized by the perpetrator, by the court system, by, you know, people by victimizing her, by making her into the bad person, you know, saying that, you know, that type of mentality, you know, has to stop. And I would like for this to be, you know, eventually hopefully be shown at different college campuses.
Definitely.
Different. You have a name for it?
Well, my tentative title is There Are No Words. And one of the reasons why, this is actually inspired by one of my very good friends who's actually going to do the score for me. And she wrote a song, and one of the things that she noticed was that there are no words is something that was said very commonly by the young lady throughout the statement. And I think that what that symbolizes is, it's, even though she had a lot to say in this statement,
it still doesn't sum up.
It doesn't. It's, when you read, it's like if you didn't know anything about this case and you just read her statement, it would shatter your heart, because when you see what she went through and what she experienced, and the sad thing is that the incident that she experienced that she didn't remember, the things that happened after that were almost as horrific as what happened to her that night, because she was being re-victimized over and over and over again. And, you know, I want to make a difference. I really want I want people to see this film, and, you know, young women who have been, you know, victimized or abused, not be afraid to speak out and say something. I want her to kind of inspire them, not me to inspire them. I want her words and what she said to inspire young ladies to say something, even if they just talk to their parents, talk to their friends, maybe even talk to the police and actually report whoever abused them. Get some justice served. It kind of reminds me of you talk about filmmakers that I love. Errol Morris is a great documentary filmmaker. There's one film that he did. It's called A Thin Blue Line. It came out in the 80s. If you ever get a chance, if you ever watch documentaries, it's one of the best ones you'll ever see. And one of the things that's great about it